Running comps, finding buyers, sending contracts are the tasks that every investor and wholesaler spends hours on every single week. So about a year ago, I asked myself a question: can I eliminate all these mundane tasks and get myself back 5 to 10 hours every single week? And the answer is yes. I've created many systems that actually help me automate my entire real estate business. Today, I'm going to show you the top 3 systems I create for my business, and you can copy and do that for yourself as well. So let's hop onto the computer and I'll show you how these systems work. All right, so the brain of all my systems is N8N. N8N is one of the automation platforms. You probably have heard of Zapier, you've heard maybe Make.com, Integromat, whatever it is. So N8N is also one of the biggest ones out there. But what you're looking at here is an automation for land comps. So whenever I click a button in my system, and in my system is Airtable. So in my Airtable system, I have a tons of leads. And all I have to do is, let's say there is a land lead that I want to figure it out how much the value of that lead is. So I just go ahead and try to run comps. So I have a button just created for running comps. When I click that button, what happens is it processes through this system. What happens is that obviously it gets the information from the record, and I'll show you this step-by-step kind of what happens. It gets information from the record. Then the big part of this is that you want to have lat and lon, so the location of the lot, so the middle point of the lot. Because if you don't have that, sometimes with land, for example, it's very difficult because it doesn't have an address. Sometimes there's no house number, so there's just an address. So therefore, you have to have a lat and lon. If you're doing houses, this is a lot easier. You don't need to do that. Then I actually, let's say I have like a full back option. So let's say if there's no lat and lon, what I try to do is that, like, okay, is there a house number? Great. Then I try to find the lat and lon. If there's no house number at all and there's no lat and lon and we can't figure it out, we just go ahead and run it by zip code, which is the backup option. I don't love doing it that way, but it's rather that than nothing, right? So it's just to get a general idea of what properties in the area are valued at. So let's say it all worked out and it did go through a lat and lon. It actually goes through here, where here in JavaScript, we just actually standardize a lot of the information to be sent to different API services. So I use 2 different API services here. So I use Batch API, which I don't like batch skip tracing, but Batch API is actually pretty solid. So in case you are missing some information about a property, you can do HTTP request to Batch API in order to get the rest of the information about the property if you don't have the complete info. But either way, so that's that one. It's not the main port, it's just like an addition to the software that I've created. But main points are US housing market data. So this is actually from Rapid API, which is Nokia nowadays. Nokia has acquired Rapid API. They're pretty awesome. It actually is kind of like Appify, which Appify, it's a marketplace of APIs. So people create APIs and they sell them. So this one particularly scraps the information from Zillow. So what I do is here, the way I determine land value is that I get sold new builds in the area. So first I get sold new builds that are houses within 12 months. And then I also get for sale ones. So I get for sale and sold in order to both of them to be put together. So then after I got the for sale information and sold ones, I merge them together. All that good stuff. If there is none, then it just says, hey, it sends information to Poto to say there's no comps in the area, which automatically for me means I'm not interested, especially for new builds. Then all that good stuff, then it goes through multiple JavaScripts, pretty much what that does in that string. So with the duplicate, so if there's any duplications, get removed. And then it starts estimating value based on the rules that I have given it. So it kind of creates a specific prompts. You cannot just give all the information to ChatGPT. That's what problem a lot of people nowadays think, because AI is so great, that you can just give it information or do what you need to do. You need to create very good prompts inputs to ChatGPT. So for ChatGPT here, I create a specific prompt in order for it to say, hey, this is how I want you to do. These are the comps. I need you to kind of analyze everything I've given you and give me the information back. So what it does, it analyzes based on these codes that I've created, and then afterwards it parses the information as I've told ChatGPT to actually provide the information back in a JSON. And after that's done, it actually parses the information and sends it back to me to Podium. So then I have another workflow that pretty much adds the information into Podium. This is just extra stuff that I have created before. I left it here in the back just to, in case anything breaks, and I can replace it pretty much. But overall, this is the flow, right? So you kind of get an idea of what it goes through. But this whole thing takes probably from clicking the button to giving comps. I'm gonna say it takes about 30 to 45 seconds. Let me show you how in general this looks. So right here you can see actually a recent vacant lot that have been pushed through into the system, and the seller said they want 175. However, the system have determined that the values in the area are between 33 to 35,000. And the way that it determines value is that I've told it that, hey, up to this value of a new build, this is how much the land value is. So let's say the house new build is $200,000. The land value is 20K or less. So therefore, I want to offer anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 on that lot. So then it will use that estimation and give me information back like this. It even breaks it down, the reasons why and all that stuff. So it's very awesome. It works great. I love it. It's been absolutely time saver for me. I still till this day just double check certain things, but the system has been deployed for 2 months and I want to say it's about 85 to 90% accurate. Obviously there are situations where there's 2 lots, double lot, things like that. That's more unique situations, but if it's just a standard infill lot, this can be super useful, and especially if you're in more dense populated areas, you can just determine a value so much easier, and it can save you hours and hours a week. So yeah, that's one of the systems that I created. System number 2 is finding builders, so finding buyers. So whichever one you want to do, but I'll show you finding builders. It works almost kind of the same for flippers if that's what you're looking for. So again, I have a trigger, scheduled trigger. So whenever there is a lead that I have that a property's under contract and I want to go ahead and see if I can find builders for it, it pulls the same Rapid API that I've showed you guys earlier, the Zillow, and it finds new builds in the area. Then it kind of standardizes the information. A lot of codes are just to standardize and separate the information to see what I can do. Then Airtable is my CRM, my database for everything that gets stored there, all that good stuff. Then after we have clarified and made sure that, hey, there are new builds that are being sold or are for sale in the area, Batch API actually determines who are the owners, so the companies that are the owners of these properties. After it does that, I make sure we remove the duplicates, because like there could be domain homes that have 20 homes in the area for sale, right? So we want to remove that. So we want to just run one. So it could be just a local builder so that has multiple properties sold or for sale. So that gets removed, all that good stuff. I make sure that I don't have them already in the system. That gets filtered out. Then I loop it over. So for every lead I created, I make sure that we check every single one of them against the database of the records, or add them into the record database that to say like, hey, we have skip trace these for the future. When that's done, we find the owner. So I actually use a skip tracing service for the API called Endata or Informian. They are pretty good. They're kind of expensive, not super expensive if you are using like a monthly set service with them. So what they do is they skip trace based on an API, which is super awesome. So all I provide is a business name and the address of the new build, and then they try to skip trace and find the owners. After they find the owners, then I use the same skip tracing service this time to skip trace the owners themselves and find phone numbers. So as you can see, there's actually multi-steps to this process. And then here we create, update records, create records, all that stuff. If any of the phone numbers are mobile phone numbers that are being returned back, they get pushed to a texting system, then where eventually we text the people. If they're not mobile, if they're regular phone numbers, they get pushed to a different system where my VA actually calls these builders to see if they might be interested in buying lots or properties in the area. So as you can see, this is the system. Again, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's not that complicated to make. If you've never worked with NAN or any of the APIs, this may seem like a lot. If you do want to learn more, I actually own and operate an automation business where I help real estate professionals and other businesses to automate their processes, and this is my passion. I love doing this so much. So we'll be very excited to help you guys as well. So leave a comment down below if you want to learn more, and I'll direct you to how to get in contact with me. So this last one is honestly the most complicated one. It's called sending contracts, and it has saved me the most amount of time. However, it took me forever to create. It was very complicated because the systems that I'm using, Zoho Sign, Podio, and things like that, they're like not very API friendly. Zoho Sign is, however, not Podio. Podio is not super API friendly, so that one is very complicated to work with. If I had maybe other CRMs, this would be a lot easier. But as of right now, this works, and it works a little bit complicated. So let's just say I'm going to show you guys how it works. So we use two systems here. We use N8N and Make.com, just because some of them are more native with like Podio. Make.com is more native with Podio. So the way this works is that there's a record that gets pulled. Again, webhook is just a trigger, right? So a trigger happens, we find the record information of the lead that we want to send the contract out. So what I started doing, and this is why this looks a little complicated, what used to be the case sometimes is that there might be more than one owner most of the time on the property. And on Podio, we just used to store first and last name of the first person. But then as I'm about to go send a contract, we recognize that there's a second owner, and I realized that that wastes so much time. So what we started doing is that actually using the API service, we check if there is a second owner. So the way that it works is that there's an address. We use Batch API to see who the owners are of the property. Then after that, we see how many there are. So if there is one, then it goes one way. If there's two, it goes another way. If there's three, it goes another way. 3, 4, 5, whatever. So pretty much what happens is if there's one, it just sends the contract because we already have the information. If there's two, it sends a message to VA, say, hey, there is more than one owner, there's a second owner, here's their name, get their email information. Or there's 3, same thing, 4 or more, then it involves me, because that's very rare that happens, but I didn't want to create a whole system just for 4. That happens maybe 1 in a 200 contracts, right? That's like not worth the time to create. So either way, so that's done. Most of the time it's 2 owners, and then it's 1 owner, and then 3 is very rare, 4 is almost never. But either way, right? So depending on that, then it sends it back to Make.com. Make.com, actually, I have multiple systems. So like I say, for example, if there are 2 owners, it sends a message saying it creates a comment in Podio saying, hey, there are 2 owners, here are the owner's information, collect their email. Same thing goes for 3 or 4, whatever it is, right? So there are the systems for that. Again, because N8 is not very good with Podium, so I have to use Make.com for that. But let's say everything is collected, then it actually goes from here. As you can see, there's this one called Send Contract, or there's one right here called Send Contract, or one right here, Send Contract. So pretty much there are multiple situations where it gets sent to contract right away. And here, this is the send contract process. We get all the information. We make sure we have information from Airtable. We have the information from Podium. After that all is done, there's an HTTP request for Zoho Sign. It's a little bit complicated the way that Zoho Sign works, but it's not too bad. Then you have to make sure you create this JSON, which was a little bit of pain in the butt to create, but after I did, this works great. Again, this was the most complicated out of the 3 systems I showed you. I've created a much more complicated system than this, but I thought those would be a little bit too long to show in this video. So I really hope that you guys are enjoying this type of content, because I love doing this. So if you are interested in learning more how I can create one system like this for you, just leave in the comment and say automation, and I'll get in contact with you and hopefully help you create and automate your business. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That's really appreciated, all the support. So stick around for more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.